Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Transylvania County Board of Education. As we do before each of our meetings, we will have a time of invocation or moment of silence, which will be led by Mr. Griffin, and then Ms. Welborn will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening to everyone. I would like to start the meeting tonight remembering a young lady, a teacher who we lost this week, Sarah Cathy. My first year teaching, I met Sarah because she played ball and I was an assistant coach for some of the teams she's played on. Everyone would grow if you knew her to just love her. She's been an excellent teacher throughout the years. And I just would like to ask everybody to remember her father, Coach Bill Cathy, and her brother, Sammy Cathy, in this loss. It was a family of teachers. She taught, her mom taught, her dad taught, and Sammy taught. So if we would take a moment, this is a special moment when we lose part of our family. We also lost another member of our family who was retired. A lot of you may remember and worked with and knew Margaret Killstrom. So it's been a hard week for us as teachers and friends and family. So during this moment of silence, if you'll just remember the people that meet every day and take care of your kids. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please stand. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I will call our meeting to order and welcome everyone here. I just want to, before we go any further, remind everyone that we are continuing to adhere to the remote meeting statute from the General Assembly and the Governor's guidelines for public gatherings. Even though we are on individual computers, all the board members are in the room and we are meeting electronically at this time. And if you're watching us, you know, it's being live streamed through YouTube. Before we begin the meeting, though, I just wanted to take a moment to see if anyone had anything else they wanted to share. As Mr. Griffin mentioned, we have lost a member of our school community. I will just say that Miss Cathy was a special friend to my family, my son. She was one of his teachers, and they grew to be very close friends. And one thing I've heard many of him and many of his friends say that you were a better person because of knowing her. And I know there's been lots of tears and lots of sadness, but I've also know that when you think of her and when I think of her, and there's many, many good memories, and she would really want everyone to smile and remember her with those smiles. If anyone else had anything they want to share? Ms. Welborn?
One of the things that I thought about a lot this week was...
You're still muted.
There we go. One of the things I thought a lot about this week was that Vonell, who was Sarah's mother, who was a wonderful special education teacher at Rosman Elementary School. She died in April, I think. And then, no, she died in August. And her, Sarah's older brother, Will, died in April. And now Sarah has died. So 3 members of the Kathy family have died in about 6 months. And I think we all need to really hold them up, because that's a lot of loss, and we'll miss them all.
Now, I'd just like to say I didn't know Sarah well. I worked with her brother Sammy for several years at T.C. Henderson Elementary, and I butted heads a number of times with her father, Bill, while he was principal at Rosman High, and I was principal at T.C. Henderson. But they were a dedicated education family, strong believers in the value of public education and the way it could lift people up. And from everything I've heard about Sarah, she, along with the rest of the family, epitomized that.
So I just ask that we keep them, as Alice said, in our thoughts and our prayers. But we will move on with the business of the meeting. And the first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any modifications?
I do not have any.
If not, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So moved.
Second.
And I will call for that vote since we are still working remotely. Courtney?
Aye.
Alice?
Aye.
Marty?
Yes.
Ron?
Aye.
This is Tony, aye. So we work from the published agenda. And our next item is a special moment. You want to say anything?
I'd be glad to start us off. Tonight we have special recognition given to Alice Wilburn, whose tenure on the Transylvania County Board of Education concludes this month. Ms. Wilburn was elected to the board in November of 2016. During her 4 years on the board and throughout her career with the school system before that, Mrs. Wilburn has devoted countless hours to improving services and programs for the students and staff of Transylvania County Schools. The board will present an engraved plaque to Mrs. Wilburn in appreciation for her outstanding contributions and leadership as a school board member. Members also will have the opportunity to express their thoughts to Mrs. Wilburn. I will take a little bit of privilege before any of the board members get to go, and I will tell you that it has always been enjoyable to work with you, Alice. Long before either one of us were in these current positions, we worked together. And you have always had the children of our county at heart. And I'm not going to say that's going to be missed, because I know you will continue to work with that. I've never been good at saying goodbyes, and particularly with educators, because educators don't really ever really fade away, because all the children you affect continue to pass that along to their children. And so thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your tenure as a board member. And I know our paths will continue to cross in other venues, but very much appreciative of all your work. Thank you.
Before I leave the camera for just a minute to take this plaque to Alice, I'm going to read it so everyone will see what we're presenting. Transylvania County Schools presented to Alice A. Wilburn in appreciation for dedicated service, outstanding leadership as a member of the Transylvania County Board of Education, 2016 to 2020. Yes, very awesome. And somebody, thank you. And now we're going to take a moment to share some feelings. Who wants to begin? Courtney.
I'll start. Well, Alice, we met at T.C. Henderson, and I grew to love you at TC, especially with Miss Ferguson. We all made a great team out there. And, and then just getting to know you on the school board has been such a pleasure. You are you refer to yourself as my sidekick, but I think that we are like a great team, especially when it came to the teacher retention and climate. And I hope that you will still help me. We can still move forward with that because we had some great things in the make for that. So it has been wonderful to work with you. So thank you for all of your help too, personally with my children. So I appreciate your comments. So thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for the time you put in for the kids in this county. The hard work you did, especially with the bond. This has been a special time. And you know where we are. And we're always inviting people to come to meetings when we can start having people back in the meetings. So thank you, Alice, for all you've done.
Thank you, Mike.
Alice and I both began work with the Transylvania County Schools in the mid to late 1970s. And I really got to know her well after spending several hundred of hours in IEP meetings with her while I was principal at various elementary schools, but more so Brevard Elementary School than many of the others. She has always been the consummate professional, and her expertise in the areas of child development and special education issues have been invaluable to the board and will be sorely missed. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate all of you. It's been a privilege.
I really didn't know Alice when she first came on the board very well. Of course, working on the board before then, I knew who she was and I knew her reputation, which was stellar, and how much everyone loved working with her. But it's been my privilege and honor to work with you. Sometimes being on the board is not easy. There are moments when you need a little word of encouragement, and there have been many times when Alice has been that one. Sorry, that has given me that word of encouragement when I needed it the most. You have a kind heart, and you have a heart for our students, our teachers, our community, and I thank you. And I'm very grateful that we have this time to work together, and we will continue to work together. And I will say that I will miss you, but I don't think Transylvania County Schools will miss you in this role, but I don't think they're going to miss you because we're going to keep you around as much as we can because we continue to need you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. I admire you.
Can I jump in? This is Carrie Norris, but of course I wanted to thank Alice for her service on the board, but I worked with Alice for many years at Pisgah Forest Elementary, and I don't think you realize, Alice, how many times I say your name in meetings. Actually, just today, as Alice Wellborn says, I talked about student retentions or about letter reversals. So it just reminded me of the many things you did in your career, how they stood out, and years later, I'm still using those words of wisdom, but you were able to do that for the board too. So just a thank you for that, and then just for always being the student advocate that you are, as well as the teacher advocate. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you, Carrie.
Anybody else have anything to share?
I'll share just briefly. Alice, I've probably known you the shortest amount of time.
You're muted. Chris, you're muted.
Oh, I'm muted. Sorry.
I'm glad somebody does that.
Yeah. I'll continue the muting tradition here till you're gone. But I've enjoyed getting to know you and working with you, and we really appreciate your service on the board.
Thank you. Let me just say that of all the boards I've been on, and I've been on a lot of boards, this is my only elected board, but this is a group that has worked together, always collaboratively, always cooperatively, always respectfully. And that is something that's really special. And I hope in a time that is has been somewhat divisive, that this board will continue to have that collaborative, cooperative spirit, because that's what we need to do for the kids. And it doesn't, we need to keep on like we've always been and just had the kids, the children in mind, and do what's right for them. So I know you all will, so thank you.
I would say it is is another one of those things that we have to deal with in a very different way. There, you can't invite people to come and have a typical recognition, and so you're getting this uniquely. But again, on behalf of the board and the school, we just say thank you for your service for beyond the years you were on the Board of Education. Thank you for many years. So we will move forward with the rest of the meeting if there's no one else. And that will bring us to public comment, which I do not think we had any public comment tonight. So that will bring us to good news, and I'll turn it over to Dr. McDarris.
Thank you. I also want to mention that our artwork this week is from T.C. Henderson Elementary School. And we are also very appreciative of Officer Owen from the Sheriff's Department being with us tonight. Thank you very much. Good news report for this meeting. Making ends meet. Transylvania County Schools Child Nutrition Director Carolyn Barton has requested almost $18,000 in free food from the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and has signed up for an additional $39,000 for a total of $57,000 in USDA commodities. This is a great number and will be a tremendous help in making ends meet this year. Appreciate Carolyn always looking for opportunities. Teachers, administrators, and even students have incredible ideas that deserve to be implemented in classrooms, but finding funding for these ideas can be challenging. Every year, the Transylvania County Schools Education Foundation distributes creative classroom grants to educators across Transylvania County to support innovative and unique projects designed to enrich classrooms. Due to times and circumstances, the Transylvania County Education Foundation has limited funds available this year. However, they look forward to seeing how they can support the creativity of Transylvania County School students, teachers, and staff. Information and applications for the 2021-2022 Creative Classroom Grants are available online through our website. Applications are due by midnight on Friday, December 4th. Grants will be awarded in early 2021. All teachers and staff employed with Transylvania County Schools are eligible to apply. Winners have 18 months to use the awarded funds, and good luck to everyone. And we also thank you to a lot of thanks to the Education Foundation. As you know, school board members may have seen the news that Leanne Winter has been named as the new executive director of the North Carolina School Boards Association effective January 5th, 2021. Mrs. Winter will be the organization's fourth executive director and the first woman to hold the position. She succeeds Dr. Ed Dunlap, who will be retiring after 41 years of service to the North Carolina School Boards Association, including 27 years as the executive director. Mrs. Winter has worked for the School Boards Association as its Director of Governmental Relations since 1988. Throughout her tenure, she has advocated effectively on behalf of school boards at the General Assembly and throughout state government agencies. Mrs. Winter was selected from a pool of over 200 candidates nationwide. We congratulate Mrs. Winter, look forward to working with her in a new role. And as a side note, she's always been a friend to us in the mountains. Leanne is originally from Asheville, North Carolina. Thank you, T.C. Henderson, as I mentioned earlier, for this artwork, and always to the Transylvania County Schools resource officers. We invite everyone to stay up to date with many of our opportunities to check out what's going on in Transylvania County Schools through social media, and you can see that listing there. That is our good news report for this meeting. And that will bring us to the consent agenda. It has personnel from me and, oh yes, I'm sorry. We'll wait on the consent agenda. Former students in the military are next. Let me get that pulled up. The board wishes to thank former students from Brevard High School, Rosman High School, and Davidson River School who are currently serving or have previously served in the U.S. military. We have a list of names that is recognized at every meeting and read aloud twice a year in recognition of Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Additional names are included as they are received. The board will read aloud the list of names in recognition of Veterans Day, which was Wednesday, November 11th, 2020.
And I will begin. Mohammed Abdul Karim, Nathan Aiken, Seth Aiken, Zach Ackridge, Brandon Alexander, Christopher C. Allison, Stephen Allred, Brian Almany, Deborah Anders, Megan Anders, Terry Anders, Seth Arnett, Billy Arney, Caleb Ash, Major Ash, LT Ash, Campbell Asprey, David Babb, Charlie Bagwell, killed in Afghanistan, Douglas Ballard, Casey Baltazar, Brandon Bainey, Elmer Lee Barton, Patrick Barton, Hank Bayless, David Baynard, Will Baynard, Twinetta Bayram, Robbie Bell, Carla Brookshire, Patrick Scott Brookshire, Gavin Bingham, Arthur Bishop, James Blocker, Josie Bracken, David Briggs, Scott Broom, Ezra Brown, Jason Brown, John Brown, Kim Brown, Robert Mitchell Brown, Jeff Bryson, Gary Buchanan, James Buchanan, Randy Buford, Sandra Bullock, Gerald Bumgardner, David Bumgardner, Nick Bumgardner, Ed Burdett, Joel Burton, Renee Burton, Wayne Butler, Charles Butterworth, Josh Bird, David Cagle, Eno Kamazine, David Campbell, David Cantrell, Tyler Capps, Donovan Carr, David Lee Chapman, Larry Chapman, Roy Lee Chapman, Dennis Clark, Greg Clark, Andrew Clyburn, Greg Cochran, Jonathan Collier, Seth Coomer, Ryan Costello, Zachary Kozart, Bill Craig, Travis Crowell, Frank Cubero, Joel Dalton, Bobby Dean, Justin DeVore, James Diaz, Zachary Dickman, Kerry Dixon, Cole Dodson, Jake Dodson, Tony Donachie, Amanda S. Donnelly.
Roy Dossie, Eric Drury, Joe Dunlop, John Andrew Duvall, Robert F. Ehas, Joe Ellenberger, Tom Ellenberger, Dustin Ellison, Daniel Ertel, Casey Essenberg, Braden Fisher, Doug Fisher, John Thomas Fisher, Shane Fisher, Catherine Fitzgerald, James Fortune, Thomas Fortune, Matt Foster, Vic Foster Jr., Eddie Fox, Brian Frady, Justin Fulp, Chris Fulton, Chase Galloway, Cole Galloway, Jeremiah Galloway, Michael Galloway, Sam Galloway, Whitney Galloway, Cameron Gasperson, Corey Gash, Brian Gilbert, Daniel Gill, Jack Gillespie, William Doc Gillespie, Greg Golden, Larry Gordon, Lewis Gordon, Charles E. Gosnell, Sharon E. Gosnell, Amber Graves, Chip Gray, Ian Green, Philip Harberley, Josh Hagedorn, Danny Hall, David Hall, Joseph Hall, Tyler Hall, Jimmy Harris, Donald Hayes, John K. Heath, Jordan Heath, Josh Heath, Josh Hem, Dwight Hedden, Jonathan Hedden, Keith Hedden, Daniel Hine, Christopher N. Helton, DJ Hempill, Ernest Henderson, Christopher Hendricks, James Hendricks, Jack Hendricks, Robbie Hendricks, Cody Henson, Lindsay Henson, Kai Higdon Jr., Kyle Hodgson, John Holcomb, Danny Holden, Kevin Holden, Robert Holden, Brian S. Holland, Samuel Holland, Fulton Holiday, Hannah Hood, Shane Hooper, Kenny Howard, John Hoyt, Donna Hunnempole, Sam Huff, Devin Hunsicker, Brad M. Hunt, Tyler Hutchins.
Philip Jack, Larry Jameson, missing in action, Vietnam. Dale James, Ricky James, Dan Johnson, Dean Johnson, Eric Johnson, Leslie Johnson, Mike Johnson, Clyde Jones, Josh Comeback, John Bryan Cup, Patrick Francis Kennerly, Eston Kevitt, Samuel Kicklighter Jr., Matthew Kirby, Mickey Kitchen, Alex H. Kaiser Jr., Alyssa Cole, Ken Cole, Taylor Cluss, Daniel LaForenza II, John Lambert, Larry Lance, Julie Landers, Jeremy David Larkin, Keenan Lilly, David Lee, Ronnie Leonard III, Richard E. Loftus, Ian Lorenz, Taylor Love, John Lund, Charles Lusk, Reginald Wayne Lynch, killed in Vietnam, Randy Lytle, Elijah Bernie Mack, Charles Larry Mahoney, Jonathan Manley, Casey Marcy, Lucas Marr, Nicholas Hunter Massingale, David Masterson, Alan Mather, Aaron McAfee, Anthony McCall, Anthony Kyle McCall, Ashley Graham McCall, Brian McCall, Caleb McCall, David McCall, Jared McCall, Jason McCall, Chris McCall, Larry McCall, Matthew Kobe McCall, Nicholas McCall, Ray McCall, Michael McCartney, Mac McCallan, Doug McCormick, Dean McDavis, J.L. McGaha, Walter F. McGaha, Mark McGuire, Melanie Mathers McKay, Chris McPiggers, Robert Medlock, Jeff Deese, Charles J. Megrum, Mark Everson Miller, Mary Catherine Miller, William Stanley Mills, Patrick Milne, Matthew Moore, Chris Morgan, Jacob Morgan, Jonathan Morgan, Josh Morgan, Tim Morgan, Gina Morissette, Joshua Morissette, Donnie Moses, Derek Moss, Irvin A. Mullinex, William S. Mullinex.
Dennis Newman, Daniel Nicholson, Kelly Nicholson, Sheridan Lee Nicholson, William F. Nicholson, Mike Norman, David Norton, Lamar Norton, Richard Norton, Ben Lucas Onick, Albert William Owen, Brian Owen, Cole Owen, David Owen, Jeffrey R. Owen, Mario Owen, Odell Owen, Stephen Owen, Stephen Robert Owen, Theodore L. Owens, Adam Pace, Clarence Bella Parker, Richard M. Paris, Robert E. Paris, Jacob Parrish, Chip Patterson, Frank J. Patton Jr., Caleb Peak, Helen Daniels Peeler, Jesse Perry, Chris Peterson, Arizona Petrie, Tyler Pierce, Donovan Pittman, Cody Potts, Corey Powell, Davin Powell, M. Roger Powell, Steve Powell, Caleb Presley, Douglas Richard Queen, David Ramey, Don Ramey, Steve Ramey, Virgil Ramey, Josh Redden, Avery Reese, Gerald Reese, Justin Reese, Jamie Reed, William Revis, Kayla Bryce, Drew Richardson, Joshua Riddle, Alex Race, Danny Roberts, David Roberts, Kyle Race, Andrew Rogers, Kayla Holbrook Rowland, Logan Rowland, Logan Roth, Steve Sales, Jackie L. Salter Jr., Varian Salter, James Sanders, Matt Sensosty, Harry Volney Scruggs, Lemuel Leon Scruggs, Amanda Sintel, Melissa Sintel, Tim Sheehan, Davis Shiflett, Charles Shipman, Kenneth Shipman, Micah Schockweiler, David W. Shook, Dale Schuler, Jermaine Subert, Aaron Sinyard, Charles Sinyard, Corey Sinyard, H. Logan Sinyard, Hale Sinyard Jr., Harold Sinyard, Ray Sinyard.
Robert E. Sinyard, Samuel Gaston Sinyard, Samuel Gaston Sinyard Jr., Sidney M. Sinyard, Thelma Daniel Sinyard, Thomas Sinyard, Thomas O. Sinyard, W. Raymond Sinyard, Walter Otto Sinyard, William H. Sinyard, William R. Sinyard, Brett Sisk, Caleb Sisk, Greg Sisk, Roger Smathers, Jay Smith, Jesse Smith, Kim Hooper Smith, Patrick Smith, Michael Snipes, Ryan Snipes, J. Ryan Sorrells, Adam Spears, Eric Spieler, Carol Stamey, Mike Stevens, Michael Austin Stevens, Billy Stewart, James Stubblefield, Seth Summy, John Suttles, Ryan Taunton, Brian Taylor, Joseph W. Terry, Shania Thomas, Michael Tilley, Lane Tilson, killed in Vietnam, John Tinsley, Shakitha Curto Tischler, Matthew Travers, Ricky Trent, Charles Tritt, Doug Tritt, Larry Tritt, Philip Tucker, Douglas Tours, Wood Turner, James Vogt, Frank Jimmy Volrath, Drew Valinsky, Christopher Warren, Stephen E. Warren Jr., Todd Waters, Susan Welch, Sam Wellborn, Chaz West, Mike West, Justin Wheeler, Karen Haley Whitlock, Charles Whitmire, Chris Whitmire, John Whitmire, Lori Whitmire, Steve Whitmire, Bob Wycliffe, Christopher Wild, Dennis Wild, Patrick Wild, Greg Willis, Chris Willix, Jesse Earl Wilson, Sean Woodard, Austin Woodson, Brad Woodson, Anthony Worley, David Worley, Jake Worley, Josh Worley, Scott Ray, J.D. Wright, Leonard Wynn, Robert Young, Ronnie Zuber.
It is a privilege to get to read those names and thank all those who served in the military from our schools. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which tonight includes the minutes from our October 19th, the November 2nd meetings, the personnel report for tonight, and the non-faculty coaches for winter and spring sports 2021. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those items? If so, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. We don't generally have discussion, but is there a discussion around this item? If not, I will call for the vote. Courtney?
Aye.
Alice?
Aye.
Marty?
Yes.
Ron?
Aye.
This is Tawny, and I vote aye. The consent agenda passes unanimously. And I will turn it back over to Dr. McDarris for the next item.
Thank you.
That's a question before we go on. Under the non-faculty coaches, or just coaches in general, I know we discussed it in the last meeting, but we've not had to change any staffing or anything. We're covered in all the sports.
I'm sorry.
Covered in all the sports and everything. We've not had a change in coaching staffing or anything.
So far, there have been very little changes. We're just hoping that all the sports are able to be played when they're scheduled to be played.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director of 912 Curriculum and Instruction, Missy Ellenberger, will present a proposal for students who are working in an approved CTE internship capacity to earn honors credit. Mrs. Ellenberger will discuss the details of the proposal and answer any questions you may have. Approval will be requested at the next regular meeting. I will pull that up and I will turn it over to Mrs. Ellenberger.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to start. This is a really short presentation, but even though it's short, it has significant value for our students in Transylvania County Schools. What I'm proposing tonight is the opportunity for our students to earn an honors credit for some of the internships they do. Still leaving the standard internship credit, but also providing that honors option. So on the next slide, I just listed a few bullet points. Why is this important? Why would we offer an honors option? With career and technical education, there are not a large number of honors courses available right now. As you see with the core academics, you have standard honors and oftentimes AP. So we want to provide those students with the option of earning an honors credit. So some of the reasons that we do this, not just for CTE, but overall, the honors courses dive deeper into the curriculum, a deeper understanding. This honors option, based on the requirements of the portfolio we've put together, will help students dive deeper into their career interests or that particular industry. It will increase the rigor of the internship and the academic challenge for some students. They will, if approved, have those quality points, which is half of a quality point for an honors course, help with their GPA, and also help our students be as competitive, if not more competitive, when they create their resumes and put this information on college applications, and as they enter the workforce, having had this deeper experience. So on the next slide, what I have for you is just a comparison of the two internship options that students could have. And I need to say that Tanya Melton and Suzanne Pritchett, our two career development coordinators, high school and middle school, helped tremendously with this. And they, Suzanne Pritchett is actually the one that monitors our internships. So they were a big help, and I don't want to leave them out. But I did link the honors packet so that you can take that and actually read through the entire packet. And I forgot to link the standard packet, but I can definitely send that out. So with our standard internship, students have to document 135 work hours. And if they choose to go the honors route, we would ask that they complete 150 documented work hours. As much as our students are working these days, that's that's not extreme. That's very doable for them. Our standard internship requires weekly work logs with a brief summary, like a 3 to 5 sentence summary based on what you did, what you learned that week. With the honors, we want them to go a little deeper, a minimum of a 300-word essay after every 10 to 15 hours of work. So that could mean they would do more than one essay a week. Both will create a job description, a resume. With the standard, you can see the difference there. 2 interviews versus 3 interviews with folks in that industry. And then the last thing our standard internship requires is a final presentation. So we ask those students to do a final presentation. They put their portfolio together in electronic format that's been checked throughout the process. We would ask that our honors create a career brochure. They will also, if one is not available at their place of work, would do an organizational chart. And can we scroll down just a little bit?
Missy, that's about as far as I can get it to scroll for some reason.
Okay, no problem. And so I'm going to just flip my screen right here. We also would want our honor students to work on a policy manual if one is not already provided where they are working. And even if it is, we want them to work through that and maybe suggest edits if possible. And then they would also do a final presentation. All of our interns are required to have taken at least 2 CTE courses in a pathway, and they have to be 16 years of age because they'd be required to provide their own transportation, which has been the case throughout. So that's a very quick overview. Do you have any questions tonight? You may have more questions at the next meeting.
Missy, a couple of things.
Sure.
One, on the honors packet, it says I need authorization to see that. So if you would grant the board members
Yes.
authorization.
Yes, I will do that.
Would you give us some examples of where our students are currently interning or have interned recently?
Sure. We haven't had any since COVID. However, before that, our vet assisting program that Ms. Reimer teaches, she has numerous interns go out into veterinarian clinics. We have students who do work at Ingalls who have taken some of our business courses and other, I should say, not just Ingalls, but other retail establishments too. So the biggies are what we can do around here. Our CNAs obviously follow a different course and path, but those technically could be considered work-based or internships as well.
Missy, can I chime in?
Sure.
We had a student work in our office at Domaker Architects a couple years ago. He was taking a drafting course, and it was just the standard internship, obviously, since the honors is new, but I really enjoyed having him in the office. He was a great representation for Brevard High School. He did a great job coming into the office and being flexible with hours and letting us know. So we had a great experience. So I hope that, that's across the board too. But Missy, though, thank you guys for doing this. And I would, if you guys ever have what you guys are able to do with the honors, I think that is a great opportunity for students to just get a feel for what it's going to be like in the workforce. So, but even for the standard internship, we really enjoyed having an intern in our office from the high school. So thank you for the program.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you.
I think the other important thing, Missy, is that people still think of CTE as being vocational classes, like there's something lower that the struggling kids take. And I think having this honors option in CTE, I think brings it up to being on a par with the academic honors classes and give CTE the respect that it deserves.
Thank you.
I just had one question. The conduct 3 interviews and one must be a supervisor. Is the supervisor who you're working for, or is that your school personnel, or who is that exactly, Missy?
That's a good question, and I probably need to clarify that in our packets as well. Go back and make some edits. I'm glad you brought that up. That would be the employer. We would want them or their mentor at the place where they're working.
Then who would the other interviewers be example of?
It could be other employees. Well, it would be other employees. So you have the supervisor and then 2 other employees.
Okay, thank you.
I may have missed it somewhere, but who determines that they're going to do the honors versus the standard?
So that's a good question. That would be a conversation that Ms. Pritchett would have with the student as she makes sure that they have those CTE courses, that they meet all the other requirements. And then it would just be a discussion for which pathway the student wanted to go. And I certainly, in my mind, if a student says, I want to go this honors route, and it looks like, they're getting into this, but their courses maybe are harder and they have to cut back on hours, we would certainly work with the student, but we wouldn't take the internship credit away. If they could meet the standard requirements, they would still get their internship credit.
Thank you. And you don't need to vote on this until next meeting.
Correct. And I'll make sure you guys have the links to both of the packets.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Ellenberger? Marty has another question.
I'm unmute. How many students, Missy, do you think we're talking about? Do you have any idea, or
that would go the honors route?
Yes.
I think it would start out slowly. I think last year, if I remember the numbers correctly, we had somewhere around 12 students complete an internship. And I would like to say 3 or 4 of those students would have easily been able to achieve the honors credit.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's everyone. Thank you again. I agree. I just wanted to say I agree with Alice on bringing this in. Is a good thing, and I think this is just another example of how our students are showing success when they get to this place. And that will bring us to bond.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberger. Bond projects update. This is a placeholder that we have at every meeting. Mr. Barger is available to give an update on school bond construction projects. Summary of the project budget and actual expenditures to date is attached for review. I will pull that up and I will turn it over to Mr. Barger.
Thank you, Dr. McDearce. Good evening. Don't have a whole lot to report this evening, even though a lot has been going on. We're really digging into the details now. I provided an updated bond budget and cost through October the 31st for you in summary and by site. We've had lots and lots of IT meetings, security meetings, AV meetings, CTE meetings, fine arts meetings, to hammer out details such as how many drops go in a typical classroom, how many network drops go in a CTE tech lab, how many racks do you need in your uniform storage room, those kinds of things. Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Weaver told me my camera was showing at my chest. So just lots of detailed information going back and forth with the architects, and we continue to meet with Vinoy and talk with them about phasing, scheduling, pricing, and things such as that. And this is just going to continue for at least the next 2 to 3 months along these lines. So with that, I'll open it up for questions or comments from the board.
Yes, Norris, Ron here. At our October 19th meeting, I asked when we might be able to see the new cost estimates. And I believe you had hoped they would be ready for tonight's meeting. I assume since you haven't mentioned that they're not.
They are not ready at this time. We do have a meeting Wednesday to try to hammer out some things on those cost estimates, and we hopefully will have something ready and available at the next meeting. And I apologize for having to delay on that. There's just a lot of questions and a lot of information going back and forth, and we just weren't able to really put together good numbers for tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions about bond or comments?
North, Marty, my famous two questions you always get from me. I've had several people just recently in the last few days ask us if the bond issues have been issued. And the other thing is, are we still going to be turning dirt in May?
The bonds have not been issued, and as far as I'm concerned, well, I won't say May. I'll say as soon as the kids are out of school, we'll be doing something. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether you can answer this or not. These people had asked me about the issue. Where do I need to direct them to find out about that?
Well, the county commissioners are the bond issuers. School boards cannot hold debt or issue debt themselves. So that's all up to the county commissioners as to the timing, the amounts, and how they propose to float those bonds to the public or to a private investor or, something along those lines.
Thank you.
I don't think we're quite really at that place with them just yet.
Well, like I said, they're asking when this is going to happen and who's in charge of this. And I really don't want to say that I don't know who it is because I don't know who it is. So that's the reason I was asking. Thank you, Norris.
Yes, sir.
I do want to add one comment before we leave this. I was listening to some conversations among some of the parties involved in this, and there was some compliments to Norris and all the work that he was putting into this and the many, many hours that he's spending on this on our behalf. So just want to say thank you, and other people are taking notice of that too. And I should let you know that he's working really hard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And a lot of folks are working on this. The administration and the staff at both schools. Mr. Whitlock's been a great deal of help with the IT side. Miss Ellenberger on the CTE side. Just a lot of folks have had a lot of input into this process. And I will say that the architect made the comment that he's never worked on a school project with the amount of input that we have had from staff and school admin and others. Many times the projects they've worked on has been, we talk with the administration says this is what we want, and boom, we're done. So they were very complimentary about the amount of input we've got from staff and other folks through the process.
Norris, I just have a quick question too. And maybe a clarification. We have not had any issue with COVID coming up for any delay or anything with some of the construction prices or anything. Has COVID had any impact on any of that?
Not at this time. I asked that question a few weeks back, and at this point, the reply from Vinoy was it's mostly finishing materials that are backlogged right now, things like light fixtures, things like that, which are way down the road for us. So I don't anticipate that any really COVID-related delays in starting the project or really moving along with it. May be wrong, but at this point, I don't anticipate any.
Other questions, comments? We will be looking forward to that next update, some more information, and appreciate it.
I think I'll have quite a bit at the next meeting. Yes.
Thank you.
Archer's still up. Every 5 years, local boards of education are required by general statute to submit their facility needs assessment, long-range plans to the State Board of Education. Also, School Planning, School Operations Division developed a uniform reporting system to assist local school units in preparing this list of needs. The format used by the state is somewhat different than the Master Facilities Plan that was developed by Clark Nixon, as were the costs associated with particular project needs. In order to reconcile the two plans, some rules of thumb are used. Dollar amounts are used as the basis of reconciliation. Square footages and dollar square foot figures are simply used to arrive at a final estimate. The state indicated that projects that were already in the works with funds available should not be included in cost estimates. Therefore, Brevard High, Rosman High, and Rosman Middle are not included. Contingency and architect fees were calculated differently and have been reconciled through the project line items on a pro rata basis. Other soft costs were not accounted for separately in the state survey and have been reconciled through the project line items on a pro rata basis. The Board of Education must review and approve the survey. The Board of Commissioners must acknowledge the receipt and review of the survey, but are not required to approve. The survey does not commit the Board of Commissioners to funding any of the needs. This item is on the Board of Commissioners agenda for December 4th, 2020. A motion is in order, if the board is comfortable with that, to approve the 2020-2021 DPI Facility Needs Survey for Transylvania County Schools. And I will open it up for any questions, and Mr. Barger can answer any questions.
And as Dr. McDare stated, this is something that we do every 5 years for the state. The report's changed quite a bit this time around, but it basically includes an estimate of our current student capacity, an estimate of our future student capacity, and a cost estimate of what it would take to not only meet that capacity, but to bring our facilities up to speed, so to speak, up to DPI standards. And again, as Dr. McDare said, I really used a cost as my bottom line because I think with this survey, that's what the state is after, an idea of the dollar needs that are out there among the K-12 school systems. So there's some differences in our master facilities plan in the details and this facility needs survey. But bottom line cost for each of the schools matches up pretty closely within a few dollars, as a matter of fact, on each school. Our future capacity was based on estimates given to us by DPI. Our current capacity was based on numbers that we have currently available. Let's say pre-COVID, what our numbers normally might be. And again, in the details of each school and the cost sheets and the cost estimates, those numbers are quite a bit different sometimes than what we have in our master facilities plans. For example, we have 3% as a contingency. They had 10% as a contingency. We had 12% for architect fees and soft costs, and they had 8.5% for architect fees and nothing for soft costs. So I tried to reconcile those differences by adding them to the actual construction costs for each project. So it's complicated to kind of explain, but I'll be glad to answer questions if you have any about what we've presented and what we've included and what we haven't included.
I have some questions. It's really interesting to read through it, you know?
Yes, it is.
And one of the things I noticed for each school, it said, what percent of the students have a reliable home internet connection? And for every school, it said 93%.
Well, and that figure came from the survey that we did, and let me qualify that. It didn't say a fast internet connection.
No.
It said a reliable internet connection.
Well, and because of the obvious heightened interest in true connectivity and broadband across the state, that's why they've started including those questions on a variety of surveys from DPI. And Norris is absolutely correct. They don't provide an operational definition for fast speed. They just say reliable internet connection. And I will tell you that some of those numbers on 93%, some of the students will answer that based on their creative ability to tap onto somebody's internet.
Right. Right. Because reliable internet when you're streaming and you're on Google Meet is not the same as being on.
That is correct.
Exactly.
I'm afraid if we have too high, if we have too high of a number, it looks like.
It's sort of like some of the surveys will say accessibility. Many students have there's the ability to have accessibility, but accessibility and actual reality of what's in the house do not always match up.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a couple other folks online at the same time. If you've got two siblings that are doing homework at the same time, then obviously, you've got a reliable connection, but it may not be very fast.
Right. Yeah. It just worries me when you have numbers that actually don't reflect a lot of the reality.
Is this a new part of the survey? I don't recall that being.
They've added it. They've
It is. It's been
added to a lot of surveys from DPI now.
So we don't really know what our starting point is, except right here.
This is based on the best information that students will provide to you and on surveys done by everyone from Land of Sky to West End Broadband. And the numbers vary. A lot of times students will claim they have access, but the quality of that access is what's in question.
And I didn't really have a good way to break our survey out by schools. So, you might have less access or lower quality at the upper end of the county. You might have more access at the lower end of the county, but that 93% it was just an average over the survey.
Okay. But it's based on self-report.
I really don't like to use the word competition, but we know we're in competition with the surrounding counties, Jackson, Haywood, Buncombe, Henderson. By our survey, have you seen their survey and how we compare in this area? I know it needs to be a whole lot better, but is it better than some of those? Or
we've asked for a accurate broadband map. Maybe broadband map's not the correct terminology, but we've asked for that a map from our local provider and have not received it.
I don't think they have one.
Thank you.
I also wondered when it said that On Pisgah Forest, it said that we needed to add some classrooms.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many was that?
4.
Okay, that's what I thought. And it said, when it said there was a pre-K there, did they mean that we wanted to have a pre-K there? Because we
Yes,
don't have
ma'am.
one there now, right?
We want to have a pre-K there.
We want to have a pre-K there. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
very
It's the only elementary that does not have one due to current
They're
spacing.
really bad.
And there's demand down there for pre-K.
Right.
And that would be one of the 4 classrooms that we would add, or that's in our plan to add.
Right. So what grade levels are we overextended on at Pisgah Forest? It was like one.
Well, at Pisgah Forest, the problem at the current problem is a core capacity, cafeteria, gym,
Yeah.
and so forth. We're anticipating a future problem with growth on that end of the county that will require 4 more classrooms.
Gotcha.
I mean, we could use a pre-K classroom and at least 1, possibly 2 more classrooms now, because we've scavenged other spaces like teacher workrooms and turned them into classrooms.
Yeah.
So, we could actually use that space now. But this would be to cover future growth also.
And overall, the overall number for the renovations was like 22.7 million-ish, and DRS was not in there. So we've done what we're going to do at Davidson River.
At this point, yeah, I did not include that until, we've done everything except some ADA enhancements, which aren't required there. And it was only about $600,000, but I think we were going to have some conversation about the program there before we decided what we were going to do with that building.
Right. Because as I recall, when we did the bond, there was like 25 million more we needed for the other 6 schools.
That's correct, but we have taken care of some of those things since that study was done in 2015, and that's where the roughly $22.7 million comes from.
Yeah, it's nice that it's less.
It is. We're slowly chipping away at it, but by the time we chip all of it away, we'll need another 25 million to start over again. So,
Norris, I know we were having problems with the above ceiling piping at Pisgah Forest. Have we taken care of that with our capital outlay budget over the last couple of years, or is that still a significant issue that needs to be addressed?
Well, that came up this past year, and we do have funds in the budget, $570,000 to take care of that. But it's the type of project that we can't do. Even at half capacity while kids are in school. So it's going to be a summer project, and honestly, it's going to be probably a 2-phase summer project. So we'll take care of the guts of it, so to speak, this coming summer, and the actual piping the following summer, most likely, is how we're going to have to do it.
Okay, what would the guts of it be?
Things like valves, pumps, any of the piping that's clearly and obviously leaking at this point, we'd try to switch out, but the plans call for a rerouting of a lot of the piping. So it's a major type thing, but the equipment, we're talking about resizing the piping and so forth also. So we'll have to put some new equipment in the mechanical rooms, and that's something that can be done this coming summer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a simple question. And through all the, each school, one of the questions was about the science labs being in compliance. But at Forest Elementary, that is not answered.
At Whereman?
At Pisgah Forest, let's see if I can see the page. So they don't have a science lab?
Well, they really don't have science labs at Pisgah Forest Elementary. I don't.
Just wanted to be sure
I
that.
answered the other elementary schools. I probably shouldn't have because they don't have really science labs either, except for T.C. Henderson.
So on the Brevard Elementary School one, it shouldn't say, it should say no, or all science of the school.
Well,
No,
Well, it really should be,
just not applicable.
yeah, not applicable. Really is more appropriate.
So we're not out of compliance.
No. And yeah,
It just was a little concerning, I guess, that to see that we're out of compliance, but
well, I'll let me review the answers on those elementary schools, and let me look at them here. There's like well, if it's okay with the board, I will make sure that none of those, because we really don't, and it really has to do with chemical storage and so forth. We really don't have any schools that are out of compliance.
okay.
We just have some schools that don't have science labs at all. So I may have put an NO instead of an NA in there. And if it's okay with the board, I'll double check those and make sure that we report that it's not applicable in our elementary schools that don't have the science labs.
Okay.
But you did say we have it at T.C. Henderson, is that correct?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Norris, Dr. McDearce, but we really don't have dangerous chemical storage in the science labs at T.C. Henderson, so that's really a not applicable also.
That's correct.
So any school where I've inadvertently put no for that question, I will put either an NA or a yes for the middle schools and high schools, for instance.
I'm not sure on the my timing on this, but we do this every 5 years, and I'm not sure it's because it looks a little different than it did last time too. But it's good to see that main entrance is controlled visitor entry.
Yes, it is. That we've spent a lot of time, money, and effort on making our schools more secure, and I think we've accomplished that at lots of the places. And we'll have the same situation at Rosman and at Brevard when we finished with those sites also.
Other questions or comments?
Just a comment. If I remember correctly, the last time the state did this survey, more than $7 billion of construction needs were identified in the 100 systems in the state. So there are significant needs in many counties. And there are a number of counties that do not have the luxury of the tax base that we do to be able to pass a bond issue to address their issues.
And I will also add, and thank you, Norris, for your explanation at the beginning of how things are reported somewhat differently on this survey versus our facility needs. And while it might look a little different, I understand that, but just looking at the general numbers and the general needs that we've reported to the public and to the commissioners, the numbers and the needs are very close on both of the surveys that are.
Absolutely. And again, as Dr. McDarris mentioned, I will be on the December 4th agenda for the county commissioners, and I'll emphasize the same thing, the methodology that I used to come up with the numbers and an explanation of the reconcilement of the numbers, and hopefully that'll fly with those folks. Again, they do not have to approve the report or fund anything on the report, but they do have to acknowledge that they've received it and reviewed it, so we can send it on to the state.
This may be a little bit off the subject, but I have a question for Dr. McDarris or Ron. Since you brought that up, Ron, there was talk of a statewide school bond. I know that you've not heard a lot about it since March, but is that still on the table somewhere in the legislature or being worked on by the school systems in the state, superintendents, things like that, or does anybody know?
Well, it could be on the agenda. We don't know yet what will be on the agenda after January. The last time it was discussed in the previous session, the House was in favor of a statewide school bond, and the Senate never took up the subject.
And I think that over the last couple of years, figures between 2 and 3 billion have been tossed around as the amount of the bond. It varies from the two houses that Dr. McDarris mentioned, as well as the governor's office. I found it interesting looking at this at the age of the oldest structure on each of the campuses. Rosman Middle School, we've still got a 1949 building there.
Yes.
Brevard High, Rosman High, we still have 1956 buildings there. So we definitely needed this bond issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you, DeMarsh, for everything you do. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
I appreciate your support, and it's been a pretty exciting process so far. It's about to get more exciting too. So hang on for the ride.
Other comments or questions on this? If not, this is an action item. So a motion to approve the 2021 DPI Facilities Needs Survey for Transylvania County Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a motion made and seconded? Is there further discussion? If not,
Madam Chair, do we need to say with changes?
oh,
You can go ahead and just say, subject to changes presented by the finance director at the board meeting.
would you like to add that to your motion, Marty?
Yes, that'd be fine. Yes.
That will be words.
I'll add that to the motion.
Would you read that back to us?
Subject to amendments as presented by the finance director at the board meeting.
I didn't know where you heard me. No, that's acceptable.
Thank you. I thought of that earlier and it didn't follow through it. Can you want to read it back to us just to be sure we got it covered?
Yes, a motion by Mr. Griffin, seconded by Mrs. Dolliver. I'm saying the board's meeting has approved the 2020-2021 DPI Facility Needs Survey for Transylvania County Schools, subject to the minutes as presented by the finance officer.
Okay, and I'll call for that vote. Courtney?
Aye.
Alice?
Aye.
Marty?
Yes.
Ron?
Aye.
This is Tom. And that was passed unanimously. And thank you again for the hard work.
Thank you.
Courtney left. Well, let's bring Courtney back. I didn't see she left because I could see her here. So let's take that. Okay. In order to make this official, we will recall that vote on the motion for the facility needs survey. Courtney?
Aye.
Alice?
Aye.
Marty?
Yes.
Ron?
Aye.
This is Tawny, aye. And that passes unanimously. Always makes it a little bit interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Barger. Superintendent's update. Each time I bring you updates, I try to bring you just some different information that directly and sometimes indirectly affects our schools. 3 items to share tonight, a mix of these of interest. According to a recent article in the Wall Street Journal, home prices rose in every corner of the U.S. during the third quarter as the COVID-19 pandemic boosted activity in a way not seen in recent history. The median price for existing homes in each of the 181 metro areas that are tracked by the National Association of Realtors was higher in the third quarter from a year earlier. It is the first time since 1980 that every metro area tracked by NAR posted an annual price increase in the same quarter. Certainly, record low mortgage interest rates motivated many shoppers to enter the market. But it's worth noting, as we look at things to try to recruit teachers, nationwide, the median single-family home price rose 12% from a year earlier. Right now, it's approximately $314,000. The median price of homes currently in the Asheville area is over $355,000. The median rent price in Asheville is $1,600, and that is high, $1,600 a month, which is higher than the Asheville metro median of $1,500 a month. As you recruit teachers, that makes it a little bit of a challenge. Also, the availability of housing. Another interesting thing, EdNC, if you read EdNC, they do excellent reporting. They have a great article this week on the pre-K program in Polk County. Aaron Green is the superintendent there. Aaron and I talk very frequently, and many times we're paired together in different activities because of similarities. As you know, Polk County is a high-performing school district. I think it's worth looking at the foundation of what that means, and it's worth noting that the article talks about Polk's history going back to a local philanthropist and having pre-K available and offered at a very low to little cost to 4-year-old children going back to 2000. They now have multiple pre-K in classrooms at every elementary school. That's important enough, but what the article doesn't mention is that Polk County also has a history of a very aggressive summer school program that for many years offered summer enrichment to students in elementary through high school. They've had to curtail that some recently due to some costs and other things, but Bill Miller, the former superintendent, a friend of mine there, once told me that for many years, a student who graduated from Polk County between their pre-K and their summer school programs might have as much as a year or more of extra school time over the course of their academic career. I would dare say that that leads to high performance as a school system. Worth noting. And then the last thing I'll share with you, I was interested to see this past week as I was in Eastern North Carolina for my youngest son's wedding, which went very well, by the way. In spite of the pandemic, we had to curtail numbers, but it was outside, thank goodness, and the weather was cooperative. I forgot that there are places in the state that can reach 67 and 68 degrees in November. We don't do that here. But they had severe flooding, and I was interested to see several of my colleagues that I know very well in Eastern North Carolina that were affected by the flooding were calling virtual days. They sometimes called them remote days, but they were having virtual days. Also in the West, Burke County has joined us in calling these as needed for weather. And I've talked with 2 additional superintendents in the last week and a half on the same as winter approaches. Winter is on the way, and we'll try to be as ready as we can. But I think that it's worth noting that remote learning and virtual learning in some capacity is going to be here to stay.
It's a shame we couldn't got a patent for that and sold it to everybody else.
I was gonna say, they did give us credit.
They do give us credit. I will say that.
Yeah, you have a
I did
legacy.
comment, I won't say who it was, but I did comment to one of my good friends who was in a neighboring county. They had received 8 inches of rain. And I was exaggerating a little bit, but I said 8 inches of rain is usually just an afternoon summer thunderstorm. But down there, it's a little bit different because it's flat, and it was very serious. On the way down, we saw tremendous flooding. It was actually, it was dangerous. And so I'm glad that they were able to make it okay. But there were some deaths, as we know, so it's very serious. That is my superintendent's update for this meeting. And that brings us to important dates. You can see that we have, this is American Education Week. We have a free Thanksgiving lunch for staff and retirees on Thursday of this week, I believe. Yes. 25th, annual leave day. No students. That's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And we're already talking about days in January.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. That will bring us to an opportunity for other items for board members. Board members, is there anyone else? I will note that we do have Mr. Kimsey Jackson with us tonight. We are glad for him to be here. He'll be joining us at our next meeting. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that. Courtney?
Aye.
Alice?
Ned,
Aye.
Marty,
Yes.
Aye.
This is Tony. Aye. We will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.
I just have to say, you guys are on track. The last meeting